Welcome to the January 8th Board of Supervisors meeting. Please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
I'm going to hand it over to Vice Chair Beth Moy for the announcements.
The Board of Supervisors would like to wish everyone a Happy New Year and welcome Megan Griffin Shelley to the board and congratulate Patrice Tureen to another term in office. The Parks and Recreation Department will again host a Martin Luther King clothing drive starting Wednesday, January 14th through Monday, January 19th. Any usable clothes, shoes, handbags, and accessories that you wish to clear out of your closet can be placed in a standard kitchen trash bag and brought to Cedar Grove Barn for a donation. All proceeds from the collection will support the Colonial Neighborhood Council and the 2026 White Marsh Township Day. Finally, the township offices will be closed on Monday, January 19th, 2026 to observe Martin Luther King Day.
Thank you, Beth. I just want to make a note that Patrice Tureen and Vince Manuel are not in attendance this evening. Do I have a motion to approve the Board of Supervisors meeting minutes from December 11th, 2025?
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries. Do I have a motion to open the public hearing to consider amendments of the steep slope ordinance in both the zoning ordinance and subdivision and land development ordinance as recommended by the Planning Commission?
So moved.
Second.
I'm going to turn it over to Solicitor Kilkenny.
Yes, thank you very much, Madam Chair. I'm going to go ahead and mark some exhibits for the record. T1 will be a copy of the draft ordinance that's before the Board of Supervisors. T2 will be the proof of publication in the Times Herald or newspaper general circulation on December 22nd and December 29th, 2025. T3 will be the transmittal of the draft ordinance to the Montgomery County Law Library from December 23rd, 2025. T4 will be an attestation of the ordinance accompanying transmittal to the Law Library dated December 23rd, 2025. T5 will be the White Marsh Planning Commission's recommendation. There was a motion recommending the Board of Supervisors consider the adoption of the ordinance at the November 19th, 2025 meeting. T6 will then be the Montgomery County Planning Commission's review letter dated January 5th, 2026. Obviously, there is a public hearing tonight, and the Board of Supervisors will hear a brief presentation from Mr. Guttenplan. Then there will be an opportunity for questions. There will be an opportunity for public comment. I see we have also a member of our County Planning Commission, I believe, here as well, who can talk about the ordinance as well. Then you can either continue the hearing to another date certain or close the hearing and take action on the ordinance which is on your agenda. Mr. Guttenplan?
Thank you very much. Just going to give a very brief overview, and I'm going to turn it over to Tim Konecki from Montgomery County Planning Commission. Most of the amendments are to the zoning ordinance. As you mentioned, there are some to the SALDO as well, to their definitions. The major amendment is to the Steep Slope Conservation Overlay District in our zoning ordinance. And the major reason that this was undertaken as a first priority was to make some corrections and updates to avoid a lot of unnecessary cases that we've been seeing at the Zoning Hearing Board. And Tim will be discussing that a little bit in a moment. This is the first major product out of our planning assistance contract that started last summer with the county. We've been working with Tim and our Planning Commission on this amendment beginning in July. And as was mentioned as one of the township exhibits, the Township Planning Commission has been reviewing this and did recommend its approval of the ordinance at the November 19th meeting. With that, I'm going to turn it over to Tim and bring up a very short PowerPoint.
All right, good evening, everybody. Thanks for giving me a couple minutes of your time to go over this. So once the wait till it's on the screen. So thanks for the introduction, Charlie. My name is Tim Kenichi, Community Planner with Montgomery County Planning Commission, and I've been working with the township since July. As I'm sure you know, because you signed off on the contract, we're with you for a 3-year term, so I'm very much looking forward to continuing on with other exciting projects and jumping right into it in 2026. But with that, I'm going to give a very brief overview of the Steep Slope Overlay District, so our first major project that we've been working on with staff and, of course, with the Planning Commission. So I'm going to start with just a bit of an overview, go over the issue that we've been confronting, the process of how we kind of got to the potential solution, and then the proposed solution, which is, of course, the proposed ordinance amendments. So the Steep Slope Overlay District has been on the books since 1977. It covers anywhere in the township where there are, quote, steep slopes, and that's a term of art for this ordinance. So currently that's 8% slope, and we're looking to increase that to 15% slope to align with best practices and basically the regional standard. The legislative intent does a really good job of summarizing what the goal of this district is, and that's to relate the intensity of development to the steepness of the terrain in order to minimize grading, removal of vegetation, runoff, and erosion. So we're basically looking to balance, the private property interest. You want to do something with your property, you want to develop it, but there are very real consequences of, developing a slope or impacting a slope, stripping vegetation without proper planning. It can lead to erosion, stormwater issues, even subsidence in the worst case. The district has 2 main subsections. There's the legislative intent. You saw a little snippet of that just a moment ago. And then the real meat of it is the modification of regulations. There's 3 subsections. We have something called the steep slope ratio, which basically requires larger lot sizes and a reduction to impervious surfacing, so roofs, paving, anything like that, as more and more of your lot is covered by slopes. So it's a sliding scale. Subsection B establishes limits on disturbance. So as the slopes get steeper, you're limited to how much you can touch that, so to speak. And then subsection C, we have a couple exemptions that just very targeted carve-outs. Might be a little hard to see on the screen, but I just wanted to show graphically with some photos of the slopes we're talking about. So we have on the top left a couple 8%-ish slopes. That's the current definition of a steep slope. Krista, in our first meeting, pointed out 8 1/3% slope is the maximum grade for an ADA ramp. So it's really not considered steep. And then 15% slope on the top right, that's what we're looking to be established as that steep slope. It might not look like a lot, but it is where you start to get, more pitch there. And then on the bottom, if this will work, 25% slope on the left, 35 on the right. We have, natural slopes, but then there's also on the bottom right, it's actually one of the retention areas on this township property. So you're basically trying to get things to drain downhill with a slope like that. So the issue, between 2022 and 2024, the Zoning Hearing Board received 70 applications for variances from these regulations. 68 went, through the full process, and all of them were granted. Cases related to the district comprise over 50% of the cases in each of those years. And given that, every single variance has been granted, clearly, it's not getting actually applied, so we need to get to something that we can actually enforce moving forward. Just for, a couple snippets, things like patios, additions, walkways, sheds, porches, that's the type of thing we're talking about primarily. And the median improvement in our analysis was well under 500 square feet, so we're not talking about very big projects, and then they have to go through the full zoning hearing board process, public hearing, all that. So the process we took, we started in July. I, of course, coordinated with Charlie and Sam at the township. We talked about what we were going to do at the meetings and then talked through everything with the Planning Commission. So started by going over the existing regulations and those issues. We got into very deeply into the ZHB case analysis. Sam did a great job putting everything in the spreadsheet, and we were able to manipulate that and kind of see what the pain points were. We evaluated best practices. So Montgomery County Planning Commission has been putting out model ordinances for decades, and we've always used 15% slope as that threshold for the use limitations. lost my place. And then we drafted a kind of a starting point ordinance, and then we actually had a community work session. So we literally set up Charlie and Sam set up tables down here. We literally invited the community to sit at the table and have a conversation about the draft. Through that, we pretty much went line by line over a couple hours, and we did come to some modifications based on that feedback we were getting, particularly from the the EAC members. And then ultimately, we got to this final draft that's before you tonight. There's 5 main sections that these are buckets that these fall under, so I'll just briefly go over each of those. So we're proposing to just add in one new subsection to the legislative intent. This language mirrors language in Chapter 55 tree protection, and we're basically just looking to establish that connection between the comp plan and these regulations. So, of course, the comprehensive plan was heavily focused on environmental conservation and open space. So just citing that is always best practice to that's your governing document, so to speak. Next, we have the definitions. Of course, the big one is changing the definition of, quote, steep slope to 15% from 8%, but otherwise we had to revise or add a handful of other definitions just so they were very clear and specific. So, if 2 people look at this, they get the same reading and understanding of the terms that are used. That 15% threshold, that's something, again, it's in all our model ordinances whenever we put them out, subdivision, land development, land preservation, that sort of thing. We conserve PA, formerly known as the Pennsylvania Land Trust Association. They also use 15% slope for their recommendations, and they put out model ordinances that municipalities can access as well. And then we looked at the neighboring communities. What are all the neighboring townships and even some of the boroughs doing in terms of steep slope, and 15% was always that norm in that analysis. The next one gets at that funny steep slope ratio system. So basically, we're just looking to increase that starting point from 15% of the total lot area being covered in steep slopes to 25%. When we did the ZHB case analysis, we found about 25% of cases were under that 25% threshold. So we felt that was kind of a good break point to just kind of trim off some of those potential variances from the bottom. At 25%, you're still having 75% of that lot area that is, potentially suitable for development. And then, of course, we have some of these other backstops to add some more surety to this. So we have limits on disturbance that I'll talk through on the next slide, but then also district-specific dimensional standards. So maximum building coverages, the setbacks, and in a lot of these districts that the steep slopes are actually located, they already have very large lot sizes requirements to begin with. Next one is disturbance limits. This is something we, kind of tightened up as a way to kind of counteract any of the, relaxation that we're going through with those other proposed edits. So right now, through 35% slopes, there are limitations on disturbance. So right now, 15 to 25% slopes, you can, impact 30% of that gross area. We're looking to drop that 5%. Same thing for slopes of 25 to 35%, dropping from 15 to 10%. And then we're looking to add a new prohibition. So basically, don't touch the slopes of 35% or more, because those are really where it gets sensitive, and you can get into those adverse impacts of erosion. That it's kind of a snowball effect. Anticipated outcome really just promoting the comprehensive plan's vision of preserving ridge lines and steep slopes, the natural topography, I believe is the phrasing in the plan. And then. There. Lastly, we have some exemptions. There is currently an agricultural use exemption in there. We wanted to just clarify it a little bit, add a little bit more detail, so that included adding new definitions and citing actually the state's Right to Farm Act, some of those definitions, because the intent was always really to be truly agricultural operations. And when we were looking at it, some of the Planning Commission members were worried it could be misconstrued as, a hobby greenhouse or something like that. Not a true agricultural operation, but something that might be able to kind of slip through the cracks. So just cleaning that up a bit. And then adding a new exemption for very minor improvements. So in talking it through with staff, we landed on up to 1% of the overall lot area or a maximum of 200 square feet. So So very small, very targeted. We're looking at like a shed, maybe a walkway extension. Something that, Charlie was just loath to make them go through the zoning hearing board process, but he had to because, they weren't in conformance. But they're so small, and we did analysis. We found about 10% of cases, had this been on the books, could have avoided the zoning hearing board because just so many were so small. Ideally with this, there would really be little to no impact on, neighbors, the township overall. So that's all of it. I'm definitely open to questions or comments. Otherwise, hand it back to you all and Charlie, and I look forward to continue coming back here with another project.
Thank you so much. This makes a lot of sense.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And we're just going to take your presentation and mark it as Exhibit 7, just so we have that for the record.
Sounds good.
Yeah.
Is there any board comment or questions? Is there any public comment? Is there anybody online?
Sorry, I haven't. No comments.
All right, then I'm going to go ahead and do I have a motion to close the hearing?
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries. All right, I'm going to go down to ordinances. Do I have a motion to approve ordinance number 1049, amending the provisions of the steep slope ordinance in both the zoning ordinance and subdivision and land development ordinance as recommended by the Planning Commission and presented tonight?
So moved.
Second.
Mr. McAnally, can you please call the roll?
Yes, Ms. Griffin Shelley.
Yes.
Ms. Moy.
Yes.
Chair Toll.
Yes. Motion carries.
Thank you.
Thank you very
I'm sure
much.
the zoning hearing board will thank you.
This is really going to streamline things for you too, Charlie. That's great.
Yeah.
And the zoning hearing board.
And the court reporter can go. Yeah, you don't have to stay for the IFC.
Unless you really want to.
Exactly.
Do I have a motion to approve ordinance number 1050, adopting the 2021 IFC, International Fire Code, and 2021 Property Maintenance Code per the Uniform Construction Council?
So moved.
Second.
Craig, would I turn that over to you?
Yes, this is just the Uniform Construction Code. They adopted the 2021 version of it starting in January of 2026. So that goes with the building codes, the electrical, the plumbing, and all the other codes. However, the Uniform Construction Code does not automatically adopt the fire code and the property maintenance code. So we have to adopt them separately. Then the other ones just automatically get renewed with every municipality. So we're here tonight just saying that we would like to adopt the property maintenance code and the fire inspection code for the 2021 adoptions.
Thank you. Is there any board comment or questions? Is there any public comment? All right, Mr. McAnally, can you please call the roll?
Yes. Ms. Griffin Shelley.
Yes.
Ms. Moy.
Yes.
Chair Toll.
Yes. Motion carries. Do I have a motion approving the financials for December 2025 with expenditures of $743,158.60, payroll totaling $721,463.95, and pension plan expenditures of $2,636.26?
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries. All right, we are down to the public comment period. Is there any public comment this evening?
Nothing online.
All right, is there any further board comment or questions? All right, do I have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. Thank you all, and good night, White Marsh.